Welcome. My name is Dennis DeLoach, and welcome to the Uncle Jim Effect podcast. This is episode number 16. That is amazing. Hard to believe we're there. And I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for tuning in. Got a great show today. Very simple, but very great. We're ending the year 2023 very, very soon. Just had Christmas yesterday, and I'm excited to talk to you about this discussion and to get going with it. So let's get moving. Our topic today is going to be a Dr. Seuss quote. If that's not simple enough for you. But before I begin, I just want to say please like below here. Please like the podcast and subscribe. And more importantly, share it with your friends and family. We're also on Apple Podcast and Spotify now. So that is so exciting. That took a little bit of work to get to, but we're there. We're moving forward and growing. I believe we have 7,000 plus subscribers and almost 250,000 views. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of those. I ask you to please share this with family and friends as we try to create a tsunami of hope to create God-given potential, awareness in each one of us, and work together to see how do we magnify that. So let's get going on this Dr. Seuss quote to end 2023. It's amazing how the simplest things in life are those things that we usually learn the most. And I remember hearing this quote a long time ago, and it just came back to me. And I don't remember where I heard it. It was obviously with one of my kids, but the quote says, "You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way." Four simple sentences or statements, and we're going to dissect each one of those. So let's get started. So, you're off to great places is how that started. And that's the title of this podcast. What does that mean? You're off to great places. I think that we have to get it set in our mind that we deserve to be off to great places. We were not put here on this earth. We were not given this body. We were not given the miracle of this mind and the ability to think. We were not given all of those opportunities to be off to average places. And each one of us individually is destined to get to our own great place. That place which we can then utilize the talents we are given from God to magnify our God-given potential to fit into this puzzle of life that benefits each and every one of us. J.P. Morgan said this. He's one of the great financial minds of all time. And he said the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide you're not going to stay where you are. And as brilliant as he is, isn't that the simplest thing you've ever heard? The first step to not staying in this spot is to decide I'm done. I'm not staying here. I'm getting here. So what better way to approach being off to our great place is to decide I'm not in that great place. I want to get to the great place. So the first thing I'm going to do is to decide that I'm not going to stay where I'm at. And it sounds so simple, but it is so difficult. Why is that so difficult? My understanding of why it's so difficult and why it's been that way in my life is embracing change is absolutely tough. We as humans like routine and we don't like to embrace change. Why? Change, along with change comes uncertainty. Even though I don't like where I'm at, I'm comfortable. And being comfortable is a scary, bad place to be in. Anytime you find yourself and say, I'm very comfortable, that means that you are not in the right spot. And so, our first decision when we know that we're off to great places, as Dr. Seuss put it, is to realize that if we are not in our great place, we need to realize that and make the decision to get out of where we are currently and to get off to the great place. So, what is your great place? How do I determine what my great place? That is one of the true great struggles that we are faced with here on this earth. All of us go through this. And the only answer to that is you have to decide for yourself. What is your great place? What are those 10x dreams you have locked up here that you keep thinking, I want to do this. I want to accomplish that. I want to be this. Yet somehow it's just a little too big, or I'm just not quite ready, or I don't have the money or the time or the effort. So to find out how to get to our great place, we have to dream big. And we've talked about this a lot on a 10x goal. If this great place isn't very scary for you to think about getting to, if you're not worried about the amount of effort and energy it'll take to get there, it's probably not the right great place for you. So I would challenge you to spend some time. And typically, we know instantly what that 10x dream that we have is. And we know what that 10x goal that we want to accomplish is because we've thought about that a lot. But when we get to it and it's time to really accomplish that, we tend to shy away from that because of the change and discomfort and look we're going to have to do in that mirror when we decide to do. So you're off to great places. Today is your day. So the second part of that Dr. Seuss quote is today is your day. And I love this quote by Alan Cohen. He says, do not wait until the conditions are perfect to begin. Beginning makes the conditions perfect. How true is that? So many times in life, I've thought about I need to prepare. I got to get ready. I've got to do these things. And once I get these things in place, then on that day, at that moment, I am now ready to begin. And that never works out. I'm trying to think, I think I can safely say it never works out. So the conditions are only perfect to start after you have started. And that sounds counterintuitive and backwards, but it's absolutely true. Starting begins the process of things falling into place and helping us. And things that we need to do to accomplish the goals we want to accomplish don't show themselves until we've started the process. So typically for me, and I'm guessing for you, the hardest part of every process I've ever done, started, or accomplished is thinking about it. It's like anything. Thinking about going out for a hike or a run or a workout is much harder than just getting dressed, getting in the car, driving, and starting. Once you start it, have you ever once said, oh man, this is so much worse than I thought? No. Almost every time it becomes this wasn't that big a deal. And so today is your day is simply saying it's not in an hour, it's not tomorrow, it's not next week or right when I get this done or January 1st. Today, right now, this moment is your day. One of the great things that I've learned as I've searched the scriptures, I found in the Old Testament there's 2 or 3 times that this phrase is mentioned, and it's talking about principles or things you're going to do, and it says 4 simple words: from this time forward. And I love that concept because no matter what we've done in life, whether we're coming off of some big mistakes, some financial issue, some business that didn't work, a relationship that didn't work, a goal that you didn't accomplish. Once again, you say, I'm going to start today to do this, and it didn't work. Whatever it is in life that you think that you've become a failure at or that you have not accomplished, that is absolutely incorrect. Then the thing you need to focus on is that concept that comes from God Himself that says, from this time forward. And what that means to me, and it's something I've drawn tremendous strength from, is that it doesn't matter what I did a minute ago or yesterday or any of that. What matters is the decision I make from this time forward. And you know what I found out? I end up having to hold on to that statement on a daily basis. In fact, multiple times a day, because you don't just do that once and it's like, great, I'm good. From this time forward, I'll never make a mistake again. Unfortunately, human nature is every day is a battle. Every day is a struggle. But you can hold on to the concept of from this time forward is a God-given gift to us that says, I know you're going to fail. You never fail until you quit. Failing is just another way of learning how not to do it. And so every day, every moment, every time you have an issue of concern that you're not worthy or I didn't do this, that doesn't matter. It's from this time forward. So simply decide that today is the day. Now I'm going to start. I don't need to be super prepared. If we're talking, for example, of working out, go put on a pair of shorts, shirt, and shoes and go do it. You don't need new shoes or specific shoes, or you don't need a new outfit, or you don't need to have this done or be at this gym or this thing. Get up and go. Start, start, start. Once you start, the conditions then tend to become perfect. But the whole goal of this isn't to get things ready, it's to start. Get started. So you're off to great places. Today's your day. Your mountain is waiting. Let's talk about your mountain is waiting. What does that mean? I love that phrase. Your mountain is waiting. Every one of us have a mountain, and I love the depiction of a mountain because I've hiked a lot of mountains. You've probably done the same. Hiking a mountain or looking at a mountain, what's the first thing you notice about it? Is it's a distance away, and you automatically know that is not going to be easy. I've got to get from here to the top of that. And so the image of a mountain is so great in so many ways. It's not here, it's not close to us. We know that it's an up and down experience, and we know that it's going to take some planning and getting after it to get to the top of that. But we also know what is waiting for you at the top of a mountain. Every mountain I've ever climbed to is a view that you cannot see anywhere else but from that vantage point. And that view becomes even more beautiful knowing what it took you to get there. And so I love that concept of your mountain is waiting. Uh, Also, mountains are long term. If it's a short, tiny hike, it's probably not that great of a view. And typically, I've found in my life, I don't know about yours, but certain mountains in my life or goals I want to accomplish are absolutely calling my name. And I hope that resonated with you. That I can assure you right now, if you look at some of the areas in life that we have talked about, and let's name those. And again, this comes from my mentor, Tom Shea, who actually is going to be our first guest podcast host or interviewee. I'm going to interview him for our first podcast of 2024. And he's awesome. But these are the 5 areas of life that he's identified. And so for this to make it easy, I want to adopt those. So there's 5 areas of life we're going to talk about. One is our physical health. Number 2 is the wealth or finance or business. Third is going to be our relationships. Fourth is going to be our spiritual component of life. And fifth and final is intellectual or our development or mind feed or things that we do to better ourselves. And so as you think of each one of those, I would imagine something that came to mind or a mountain that's calling your name in each one of those areas. That's what I want you to focus on. And so whether you said, man, I've always wanted to do a marathon. I've always wanted to reach out to this friend that I haven't talked to. I've always wanted to have this amount of money in my savings account. I've always wanted to learn Spanish, and I've always wanted to read the New Testament. Those are mountains that are calling your name. Do not let that go away. This year, today, starting now, we're going to start listening to those mountains that are calling our name. And they're different for each one of us, but the concept and the principles are the same. So let's talk about that mountain and what we're going to do, right? So as we've discussed that, so that we don't get overwhelmed, just pick one of those for now, and just to go through as an example. We're going to talk about that. So you're off to great places. Today's your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. That's the 4th sentence, to get on your way. What does that mean? That means to get started, to get after it. And I love this quote. Arthur Ashe, who was one of the first Black professional tennis players who did phenomenal, grew up in a poor area of Virginia where he was not even allowed, and this was in the 60s, He was not even allowed to play in the indoor courts where the other people were allowed to play. And Arthur Ashe ended up winning every major tennis tournament, including Wimbledon, that I'm aware of, and overcame phenomenal odds. And he said this: start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. So there are no excuses for any of us. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. That's what it means to get on your way. You have everything you need to accomplish that. So I just want to share with you uh, my one of my stories. I've shared with you this before, and it takes some being vulnerable to talk about this. And I hope you learn something from it, and it encourages you to get started to get on your way. So, as I've mentioned before, I was lucky enough to play football at the Division I college level. I was able to do very well. I was a 3-year starter and was all conference and team captain my senior year. I was at that point, was performing at an elite level. I was in great shape. I had a six-pack stomach. I was lifting weights all of the time and had some great numbers on things I was lifting. My body fat was extremely low, and it was just a great time in my life physically. I suffered several injuries that ended up not making, but I chose to focus on my career at that time and went on to dental school. And as a lot of you know, dentists sit down a lot. And my tremendous ability to work out and burn fuel came to a halt. And I made a conscious or unconscious decision to pursue that and did not pursue my physical health. We all get busy, and I had some great excuses. I was studying a lot, going to school a lot. At the time, we were starting our family, and we had 2 children in dental school, and we got done with dental school, and I came out, and we had more children, and I was getting busy starting a professional career and pursuing different education goals within that field of dentistry. We had kids, 6 different kids were going different directions and activities, and excuse after excuse after excuse for me not to continue to focus on my physical health. And so a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, the next thing I know, I'm extremely overweight. Obese is the word that the doctors talked about. That led to me having some fairly serious heart issues, led to me having a couple of heart surgeries, to being on medication. And all of that led me to a point where, as I mentioned before, my good friend and mentor, Tom Shea, the Navy SEAL, basically, as I sought him out because of some things that he did that just blew me away, he was such a tremendous influence in my life, but it was basically point blank. It's just go, get moving, stop making excuses and go. Uh, in essence, get on your way. And as we did that, it was simple with him. It was move now, move often. And that's it. And don't have to have a fancy plan. Long story short, it was extremely painful for me to go from that picture I just described to you to one where I basically am within 20 pounds of my playing weight some 40 something years ago in college. I've accomplished half a dozen or so fairly tough mountain trail marathons. I've done a 24-hour challenge with Tom where we basically are at the whim of a Navy SEAL for 24 hours and hiking in the mountains and doing whatever he tells us to do, crossing rivers and doing those things. And that was a phenomenal thing for me. And so it all started with get on your way. So all of this is started with a Dr. Seuss quote. You're off to great places. Today's your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. I hope that simple 4-part quote by Dr. Seuss is something that has stimulated some thought in you, that you are off to great places. Realize you have great places in this life. And those great places are specifically reserved for you for your God given potential and to magnify your God given potential so that you can do your part to realize your purpose in life where the most joy resides for you, that you can give the most value to people. Today is your day. We don't wait till tomorrow. We're going to get started today. The conditions are only perfect after, after, after you start, not before. Your mountain is waiting. I promise you, if you think about those 5 areas that we talked about in life, that there is one of those or all of those that have got a mountain that is calling your name. And when it calls your name and it keeps staying in the back of your mind, understand that is something that you need to address and to get after. And finally, get on your way. Like Arthur Ashe said, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. That's all you can do. That's our plan. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. I share with you my story about how I let things go and how hard it was to come back. Learn from my story. What did that trigger in your mind when you heard what I talked about? Something came to your mind that said, boy, I should do this and get after that goal. That's what you want to do. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is start now, not tomorrow, not January 1st, not when you're ready. Start now. And this next final podcast for 2023 is going to be our Friday focus that talks about our theme word for the year 2024. Every year I like to have a word that I focus on. It's kind of the underlying theme for the year. And you can focus on a lot of, but I tend to pick one, and quietly I try to make that my focus. We'll divulge that word. It's a phenomenal word. It will lead to so many positive things in your life. So join me this Friday morning for that introduction of that word on a last episode of 2023 as we prepare to have the greatest year ever for us in 2024. Again, thank you so much. Please go and like and subscribe to this podcast. Share with your family and friends if you find any value in it. And realize that we are now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So anywhere that you can get podcasts, type in either my name or the Uncle Jim Effect, AEFFECT, Monumental Podcast. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for what you bring to this, and I'm grateful for you sharing your time with me. And get ready for this next and final podcast. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.